Spook.
Yes.
What's with the helmet and the glasses?
Well, Sly, I heard a really good rumour that we'd be interviewing Toby Green this week, and I wanted to be prepared.
Is that enough protection?
I think so. It's not like we were interviewing the village people.
Welcome to the Collingwood Rant. I'm Sly.
And it's just another week of final spook.
We're coming to you following our triumph over the week's break.
Yes, and how much did we win the week's break by?
We didn't have an injury as far as I'm aware.
No, we had 7.
We tried. I thought we'd start by looking at the other two finals quickly.
Oh, good. We're going to have them on the screen playing?
Yes, they're there.
Here's the first quarter. Oh, that bit was good.
Geelong defeated the West Coast. Bit of surprise. Most people tipped West Coast.
Yes, I was a bit surprised. I think it was almost a fait accompli that the West Coast were going to go through and probably threaten Richmond, and now Geelong have gazumped it and probably given Richmond a bit of an armchair ride in.
Fort Geelong were fantastic in that first quarter. I know I've been told that it doesn't happen, but I thought the umpiring was terrible in the second quarter, which got West Coast back into the game.
Are we doing the Geelong rant?
And I just wanted to point this out because, I mean, people keep saying, if you're good enough, you win regardless. It's like, well, no, if you have enough bad decisions, and there was a lot of bad decisions, it'll totally change momentum. And, you know, I'm not making excuses for Collingwood. I'm talking about a Geelong game. So, you know, I thought it was really appalling umpiring that flipped that game over, brought West Coast in for chance, and then Geelong reasserted their ascendancy. But was surprised to see Geelong win. Hawkins out for 1 week with a careless clip.
Wasn't that a George Michael song?
Was it? Careless clip?
Mm. Yeah, so he's out for a week, and that's been upheld this as of tonight. So, again, it's another leg up for Richmond. Let's look at this. So, Geelong versus Richmond, what are your thoughts? I expect the Tigers probably to win that comfortably.
So, do you think Geelong won't give them a hard bruising encounter?
Oh, jeez, I don't know. I'd seriously, that's the one thing you got to hope for. Well, two actually. Are we allowed to pray for other teams' injuries? No, I can't see why not. We get shafted every other week. Yeah, look, I wanted to. I mean, we'll get to it in a second. But the other game was quite physical and
we're going to get
tiring looking. So I'm hoping much more for that, and we have an armchair ride in. Would that be too much to ask for?
Well, that was effectively what happened in 2010. We smashed Geelong, and then we just went into cruise control, and we had an easy ride in. From memory, St Kilda Bulldogs had a pretty bruising game. And then 2-11 was a little bit of the opposite. We had a really tough prelim, and Geelong had an easy prelim against West Coast. I mean, in the end, you still just got to do whatever you need to do to win.
That's right.
Hawthorn had about 14 really tough prelims and then 1 grand finals. All right, the other game, I really didn't see any of this. Giants defeated Lions, but I got a number of people texting me how bad the umpiring was and how much that shaped that game. Oh, well, it was twofold. There was all that ridiculous commentary coming from the umpiring about what you should and shouldn't do.
Like that. Geez, you don't think Brisbane would be feeling a little bit pissed off about it all? The way that the umpiring unfolded, it was terrible.
I didn't see it. So how bad was the clipping of the hand and the...
Well, I think it was pointed out by several luminaries in the media that if you rule yourself fit enough to get out in the field, you're a target. And you had a deficiency and they were trying to weaken it. It's been going on forever. I don't see a problem with it.
I disagree.
Oh, okay.
I think if it's in the field of play, you can smack. You can go in hard. If you're just standing there, shoulder to shoulder, all that shit the players do where they're really getting stuck into each other, that annoys me, whether there's an injury there or not. I don't actually see the purpose of sort of constantly... clipping each other side to side when there's no contest there. And I don't mind if they try and stamp that out, regardless of whether the injury is there or not. I just reckon it's pointless bravado, and it annoys the shit out of me.
Well, now we have two differing opinions.
Yep. So we're going to do this really quickly because they're just two games we didn't really care about.
Well, we cared about one, sort of.
I didn't care about it, and I'll explain why. Have you seen this final series?
On my TV.
And what have you thought of it?
Look, I probably the game on Saturday night was probably fairly close and a little bit engrossing, even though it was a bit of a slugfest at times. And but the good thing out of it was they ran themselves, by the looks of things, into the ground both sides. So that sort of augurs well for who was coming up against us. But other than that, it's been a bit funny in terms of it doesn't seem to be that, apart from that one game, that intensity just sort of doesn't seem to be there yet. But again, it's that whole marathon approach to it all. But it's cutthroat for these guys. So you would have expected a bit more of a bruising encounter.
Well, I just look at it. Thank you AFL for creating this competition where you have a top 8 where pretty much every side would have been a 6th to 8th place side about 5 years ago. It's a real sort of substandard competition. Look at some of the players running around and I just think, geez, these guys are in the best teams of the year.
The best of the best.
Yeah, and it's like, well, you know what? You haven't actually improved the quality of your brand as the competition. It's actually, I don't know, degraded. Final thoughts about last week?
Probably the Cats game, as I said, was a surprise, but I think, I don't know. It's going into the GWS and Lions game, who would you have rather have won?
Probably would have rather that Brisbane won.
I think so too. I think GWS are probably going to trouble us that little bit more. Having
said that, I actually think, the way I've watched both teams, Brisbane has, although we smashed them, but as they really started to roll on as the season went on, because they probably had a better second half of the season than their first half, they always seem competitive. So even when Richmond beat them pretty comfortably in the last game, they still really troubled Richmond the whole game. Whereas GWS, I reckon they've just had games where they've been totally shut down and they've looked impotent. And I reckon they have that vulnerability to being shut down in that way where it's just not working and they seem to, I don't know, implode or, lose their intensity and that sort of stuff. So when I look at this week coming up, and we'll talk about it more, I just think which GWS is going to come out. Is it that really good one, or is it that one which, scored 4 goals against Hawthorn?
Well, both games that I've seen at GWS in the finals, they've come out really aggressive in attacking the man, but they've tapered off after that. And I reckon, obviously we'll talk about it a little bit more,
Should we?
But I think they're going to go for that same angle, but they're just not very good at sustaining it. And I don't think you can. You've either got to try and belt your opponent a little bit to get a run on, and if it doesn't work, then you've got to revert back to structure.
So you go back to the Sydney Hawthorn Grand Final from 2014, I think. I can't remember, but that second one, which on Hawthorn won. And Hawthorn attacked them physically, but they attacked them within the context of the play. It wasn't just sort of cheap hits behind play and late bumps and shit like that. They really just mauled them in the contest, and then Sydney became really paranoid about what was coming. And Hawthorn even did that against West Coast in their grand final, and West Coast did it actually to us too. It was just in the context of play. So, I just hope if GWS do that to us, that we absorb it and just go on. We'll get to that later. No more final thoughts?
No, I was just going to say, I was probably a little bit hopeful that West Coast were going to get through and tackle Richmond. I thought they would have given them a bit more of a belting in terms of bruising encounters, but I don't know, maybe the Cats will come out hard and soften Richmond up, or vice versa, and whoever comes in, if we're lucky enough to make it through, is bleeding, tired and sore.
Okay, we'll be back with Medium Acidic. We're back with Medium Acidic.
We didn't really go anywhere.
No, we didn't really. We're still here. Daniel Wells retires. He announced his retirement after 15 glorious games at Collingwood. I think about 7 of those he completed.
Over 12 seasons?
Yeah.
What a shock.
I didn't see that coming at all.
No, I don't think he did either.
No. But it's...
Effective immediately, I read there too.
Yeah,
but, so he's obviously ruled himself out of the grand final. It's a big call from Wellesley.
Yeah. After playing that a whole...
With our attrition rate, though, you wouldn't make such a big call, would you?
No. After, that, 3 quarters he played against Sydney? Was it 3 quarters, 2 quarters? I don't know.
It was about a half, wasn't it?
Was it a half?
Then he tripped over a blade of grass.
Then he got tackled. How unfortunate is that you get tackled in a game of football?
It's unheard of.
It's ridiculous. Jeremy Howe says Collingwood is still as hungry as ever.
Well, don't they eat?
Still as hungry for success as ever.
As ever when? As ever what? How far back are we going as ever?
This article pissed me off, no end. It's like, Howe comes out and goes, no, we're still hungry. It's like, you didn't do anything. Why do you got to, clarify that you're still hungry. You accomplished nothing. Why? I don't know if it was like just addressing the Collingwood masses going, usually we make a grand final or two and that's it for us. It's like, why? That's
what they want to hear.
Who? The camera?
Yeah, the camera wants to hear that.
Maybe the village people want to hear that. Sydney's 204 centimetre Darcy Cameron has said he wants to come to Collingwood.
Why?
I don't know. More Darcys at the club.
I can. You obviously see that as we got exposed this year with Coxie going down that we don't really have a backup ruckman. So I can see some merit in it. I believe it will. If he's coming, we get him fairly cheap. So what, a fourth rounder or something like that. It's. I don't see any harm in it.
If it's that cheap, yeah. I mean, it's actually really amazing when the articles are writing up going, he'll form a three-pronged attack with Cox and Myercheck. It's like, you seriously think Cameron and Cox will play in the same forward line? Maybe, Melbourne's making the play for Jamie Elliott.
He's not going anywhere. Next.
Should we disband Melbourne?
Yes, I think so. They're just a pain in the arse, really, aren't they?
They are becoming more and more so. West Coast, Willie Rioli suspended for a drug infringement. Urine.
Allegedly, there was a substitution. I think they tried to put in cider, because apparently a lot of people can misconstrue cider in the presence of something.
What, they just look at it and go, oh yeah,
it's cider. Yeah. But
why would you do that unless there was something there to be covering up?
Well, that's the thing. What's your motivation for doing it? Because from my understanding is you pretty much strip bare. There's 98 people there saying, we, Willie, we. And he goes, well, look at that thing over there. And then just went like this.
I don't get it. And your favourite journalist, sorry.
Yes.
We can't call him a journalist, can we? Mark Robinson. I'm no expert on drug testing, but I believe he's innocent. Based on what?
Based on everyone at Collingwood is guilty without a shred of evidence, and the people that do this for a living, the governing body of doing these tests, got it wrong.
I still don't know why you'd tamper with a sample unless there was something.
You got something to hide. Well, I can't see it. Well, he obviously thought he had something to hide, and if he's got something to hide because he's thinking of that, then he had something to hide.
I don't get it. I mean,
or maybe he hates Gatorade.
Maybe, but if that was a Collingwood player, I can only imagine certain journalists would be coming out saying they should throw the book at him, they should give him 9 years, he should be deregistered, and all that sort of shit. But at the moment, it's not a Collingwood player. Okay. Don Pike resigned as coach of Adelaide.
That's about 16 coaches have been through this year.
Yep.
Don Pike, which one's he again?
He's the Adelaide one. He got into a grand final 2 years ago.
Did he? How'd that go?
They lost.
Oh, were we employing him?
Probably get him as assistant.
Yeah, I would have thought so. He could add to our next woe.
You surprised by his resignation?
No one really resigns, do they? You're always managed out of an organisation and then toe a party line.
I thought you were doing Rise of the Skywalker line.
What's that? About
nobody's ever really gone.
Hasn't that Star Trek 2?
No.
Hang on.
No, it's last.
Yeah. Doesn't really matter. Move on.
In the draft, we at the moment have picks 35, 53, 64 and 71.
Bingo.
What a top raft of picks that just nail...
Run them by me again, what were they?
35, 53, 64, 71.
Ooh, she sounds nice.
Did we lose grand finals? We won in 53. We lost in 64. 35, I think we won. 71.
Make sure you get these figures right.
Yeah. The VFLW side made the grand final.
Oh, good. Have they lost one before?
No.
Oh, it's the first time for everything.
Congratulations to the VFLW side. How's the VFLW work, do you know?
They go out there, they kick the footy, they win points and goals, and then...
but look at the names of the players, and they're just the same as the AFLW players.
Well, I know Chloe Malloy's come back through them, and this is obviously played in conjunction with this season. So I don't know, is it a preparation thing, or is it a blooding field, or
I would have a blooding
identification field for talent? I don't know how it works.
I would have thought it was sort of,
who are they playing in the grand final? Do we know?
I did know. And
Adelaide? Adelaide would be a good match for them.
Might have been Bulldogs.
Yeah?
I can't remember.
Bull what, sorry?
Bulldogs, I don't know. Finally, Toby Green suspended for 1 week at the time of recording this.
Absolutely no chance of getting that week. He'll be let off. He'll just say sorry again.
So Grant Thomas came out really strongly on Twitter saying it's the AFL's fault because they went so softly on him. Previously, he shouldn't have played against Brisbane.
Well, they strongly recommended. They strongly recommended that he say sorry and get a fine.
They reclassified that offence so they could get him off. Why weren't journalists complaining about the double standards and the hypocrisy the way they complained about Stevenson playing on the VFL game?
He's not wearing a Collingwood jumper.
It's seriously shit journalism. I don't want to name people, but you know who you are because you're just shit mutt-raking journalists.
You don't bite the hand that feeds you either.
No, that really annoys me. One journalist called Stevenson being allowed to play utterly ridiculous.
Who would that be?
John Ralph Malf, but said nothing about the way it was reclassified to get...
He went stum.
I think he actually just said, oh, here it is, this is what's happening.
I'm sitting on my hands, I'm not typing a word against this one.
Seriously, I wish we get the good journalists in a room and the bad journalists in a
bigger
building,
room.
in a building, and we just nuked the building and got rid of all the shit journalists. Yeah, somewhere to be sure. Anyway, we'll be back with the match preview.
Okay.
We're back with the match preview. Just rocketing through this.
Oh, well, there's not much to talk
What
about,
happens?
really.
Yeah.
You can only dribble so much shit on the internet.
Yeah, you can. Ben Reid's been training really hard.
Oh, good.
Tom Phillips is battling a mystery ailment.
Oh, who's going to win? Is this a video game?
No, it's not a video game. But it was reported, they didn't actually report it what it was, but they said it was a mystery ailment.
I think it was the bubonic plague. It's about the only thing left that we haven't had go through us.
I actually did a bit of digging because I know someone at the club.
I admired that hole.
I know someone at the club, and I asked this person.
Bucks? Was it
No,
Bucks?
I don't want to say who it is. I asked this person what was wrong with Phillips, and they said they'd never seen this before. I go, what is it? And this person told me
He's healthy.
He's healthy, yeah. He's just healthy.
Did I just steal your line there?
Yeah. That's it. I'm out here. Did I tell you Reid's been training really hard?
And he's healthy?
The Gully is training really well, but won't play before the grand final should we make it. And
maybe that's a ruse.
Paul Ruse?
No, I wouldn't risk him anyway.
Yeah, but and he's still, he's still trying to make it.
Again, look, I think we covered this a little bit 2 weeks ago. Depending on, I suppose, the grade of the tear, I don't think anything's actually come out about how... it obviously wasn't a tear, it could have been just a minor little blip. That if he's gone over to Germany and the healing hands has worked his magic on him and clearly said, you get out there and play and win Collingwood, it's the grand final. I can't see any problem with it so far. And he's in that period where you're coming up to 3 weeks, which normally for a normal person, not a Collingwood player, would have been probably acceptable enough a period in between. But he still could be a very, very good chance, I would think.
Well, they're saying he's training harder, so it's like, well...
He only got off the plane this morning. But that's dedication. He went straight from the airport into an Uber and down to Victoria Park.
I don't know...
Do we still train there?
No, unfortunately. No. I don't know how severe that hamstring is. You hope it's not like Ben Reid in 2011 where you could see he shouldn't have been playing. I don't think he had a hamstring, I think he had a calf or something, but...
I think he had the whole kit and caboodle.
But there's probably like an element where you can risk it and you can play through some pain and possible risk of damaging it further. Or he can play and be a total liability the way, Ben Reid, but he was in 2011 and the way Peter Moore was in 1981. It's, that old adage, you don't bring injured players into finals.
Jared Malloy.
Yeah, if they're not fit and you're not going to get them through... And there's a big question mark, and you just say no. And the only way to play the goey, if he had like a little bit of an injury, is like I say, let's play him at full forward. And you know what? You're not going to get a touch this whole game. You're just going to be a decoy and just keep running off. But we still have to get that far.
Hopefully we can cover that next week.
Hopefully. Pendlebury talked about who DeBoer from DeBoer, how do you pronounce his name?
DeBoer.
DeBarge?
DeBarge.
DeBarge.
I'm just going to get the DeBarge on out of here.
Yeah. I can't believe you quoted that. He talked about how the Barge was going to battle the rhythm of the night and who he'd tag in the Collingwood midfield. He's done well against Bont, and Lockie Neal kept Bont down to like 13 possessions. So,
well, that's probably because he was blinded by the lights.
But Buckley, Pendlebury said it's a team effort to overcome him or whatever. I really hope there's some thinking gone into what happens if he tags anyone, gets tagged, and they get really taken out of the game the way certain play was in the grand final last year.
Yes, who would that be?
No, it's just really one of these things that, a more mature team, I think, would actually just say, well, look, he's getting tagged out of it. He's getting walloped quite a bit too. You know what? Let's start providing blocks so he can get away and just actually...
Well, that's the thing. He's either obviously going to go to side bottom or Pendles. And you've either then got to rotate someone. Do you tag the tagger, maybe?
No.
Do you belt the tagger?
I don't know enough about the barge to know how he really plays, but I like what Richmond does with Martin when he gets a real hard tag and they just go, we'll just go to full forward. Take this guy with you. Take him out of the midfield. We'll get someone in there who's actually going to get more possessions, and you're now dangerous, and that tagger is not going to be as dangerous at fullback.
Which would work exceptionally well if he was tagging side bottom.
Yeah. Oh, look, even Pendlebury. I mean, Pendlebury's a good mark. He's physically a good size, I'd say, just go to full forward for a bit, see what happens. Even if you're just contesting, bring the ball down to the other guys, then great. But don't allow this situation, which what happened in the grand final last year, is just, and not just with side bottom, but it was like a few of those positional things where you're just going, you're going to change it because this is not working, and it's slowly turning around, so they're getting on top of us, and you're not doing anything to arrest that momentum shift. So change it up somehow. And that's what I mean, we've talked about this before. Buckley's very regimented, loves his structures, like his predecessor, Nick Malthouse. But I've always liked that sort of Malcolm Blight type coach who's just looked at it and gone...
Insane.
Yeah. Love the insanity. Just, he won 2 grand finals because he was insane, because he made changes and totally shifted those games. And you know what? It might not work, but I'd rather try something and not have it work rather than just sit there and go, well, it didn't work. But we saw that for like 78 minutes, so why are we surprised?
So, changes this week. Who do you think?
So...
We know we've got 2 obvious outs.
Who's that?
Well, there'd be Greenwood and... Jordan DeBory.
So the Goey out and Greenwood out. They're talking about retraining really well. I think he could be an interesting one to play up forward.
My only concern with him coming in is with a taller marking target there, are they going to start bombing it?
That's a good point.
There was 3 defenders for GWS who've just intercept marking everything coming in, and Brisbane were just bombing it. Their forward 50 entries were abysmal, and they reminded us so much of us at our worst. What's the other night? Now, we'd certainly be stupid if we played into that sort of scenario into their hands. And I think if we had that small mosquito fleet running around, leading hard, everyone's dropping the eyes and delivering the ball in, we'd be far better doing that than having one guy that may or may not make it through the game as a bit much of a tempting target.
Well, conditions are meant to be wet.
It's meant to rain in the morning, I think, then stop, which at the G, it dries up pretty quick.
No, they might spray something on the wet surface to dry it out.
They only bend the rules like that over in WA.
I think the curious thing too is whoever they bring in, are they looking to bring in as a sacrificial lamb who they can then drop 1 week later? Should the Goey be right?
Well, I think that's the thing. Ultimately, that's most likely going to happen.
Or are they looking at it like, you know what, let's bring in Reed, for example, and then we'll play this game, and if Reed has a good game, then you know what, and Callum Brown doesn't, it's the one that you drop, or like, not just saying Brown, but like Josh Thomas or whoever.
Yeah, someone...
Do they look at it and just go, whoever we're bringing in, you're a chance to actually play a grand final should we win? Or are they just sort of going, look, you're just going to be in here for 1 week, and if you're going to do that, then you'd probably bring in, I don't know, Varco or someone. Scharenberg's the other one who's a possibility to replace Greenwood. I don't know about anyone else really in that.
Well, there's Aish.
Aish
hasn't played a lot of footy since.
Aish hasn't played since 1964. He played in that West Coast game, and I think that was it.
Yeah, he's missed about 7 weeks or something, hasn't he?
And then you have guys like Magden, and that's about it, I think, off the top of my head. Josh Dacos, these sort of guys. You have very shallow depth. You're not going to be bringing in, Wells, Goldsack, these guys. They're definitely out of it now.
No, they're all retired effective immediately.
Yep. So you had like a couple of experienced bodies you might have risked. I mean, Wells would have been an interesting one if he'd played a few VFL games previously. You might have said, yeah, well, let's try it. You know, if he breaks down, he breaks down. But if he plays, he's the sort of guy you could plug in and he'd get 15 possessions, probably kick a goal or two, set a couple up. The guys you're bringing in now, I'd be really worried about their impact in the single game after a long layoff. I mean, Aish to me is a little bit of a worry because to me, from what I've seen about him in his career at Collingwood, he's a very slow starter and then he works his way up to playing some good football.
Yeah, that's a point.
About 115 weeks later. Plugging him in after 7 weeks. And then the two others are the Reed and Vark. I mean, Reed, you know, he, as you pointed out, he was moving really well before he got injured, but the thing is, he did get injured, and that's the risk with someone like that.
I mean, if you're going to play him for just the one game, if you're that absolutely over the top confident that the go he comes back in, you can probably almost afford to do it. But if he breaks in the first 5 minutes, you're immediately starting one rotation down. You're up against it. You're playing for a spot in the grand final. I don't know whether you can... look...
I mean, the other concern is you bring Reed in... You know, let's be honest. You got Reed... Like, just take Reed out of the equation. You bring anyone in, you still got Moore and Elliott with big question marks over him. You know, are they going to last for whatever's left of the season? You know, Moore jogged off at one stage against Geelong and looked like it was like, oh shit, is he done? Or what's happening? Elliott's had a really good run lately, but because of their profile, you'd think, geez, they are really the sort of guys that you could just go on them. Until they prove otherwise, that's what you're going to expect. How many of these players do you want on in that side?
Well, I mean, those two you've got to stick with, though.
I know, obviously you're going to play.
They're essential cogs.
But do you bring another one in like Reed and go, okay?
It almost feels a lot more comfortable to err on the lesser side of caution and bring in Varks and Scharenberg.
Even Varko sort of fits that profile to an extent too.
He's been reasonably good, though, in his last few matches. I was not to say he could completely explode in this one, but in terms of risk, they're the least... Well, Berg, you'd hope, would have the stamina and the durability to go out there and last. Varks, yeah, probably. Reed, it almost scares you, but you know it's almost a gamble that may be worth playing. Look, even if you mentioned about a decoy, you know, whether you almost rope-a-dope a little bit with him and have him lead off over there, and everyone knows then they're going to kick to the right, and once they then work it out and start countering, you can switch or whatever. Maybe, I don't know, it's again, shake it up, do something a little bit different if you're going to bring him in.
Well, the other option is you play Reed down back and you move Roughhead or Moore up forward. Moore had a great second half against Geelong.
Well, you could swing no matter what at any rate.
Yeah, but whether that actually happens before it's too late.
Yeah, well.
Moore and Howe are fantastic against Geelong. Howe was brilliant.
How did he do it?
How? Moore got better and better in that last quarter. Yep. He was fantastic.
You could roll the dice again, I guess, with Ruffy. So you're going to stop up tall. They've got a couple of talls, haven't they? GWS, Cameron. Which I think Ruffy sort of taken care of him in the past.
Lockie Keefe.
They'll bring him back for laughs, surely, won't they?
He's in there, I think.
Yeah.
What's that guy with the mustache's name?
Mustache Mel.
Himmelberg or
Hindenburg. Yeah, something like that.
I don't know.
We should probably look up the opposition players every once in a while. That's how much GWS mean to people, though, really.
It's true. You know, I'm sorry to be disrespectful, but I looked up the GWS side. Whenever even when I watch a play, it's like, I don't know who these people are. That you mention names, it's like, oh, okay, that's him. I didn't know he looked like that. And then I see him again like the following week and they mention that guy's name. It's like, you sure that's him? Pretty sure that's not him.
Yeah, they're just not interesting.
They're not an interesting club, and that's no offence to GWS because, you know, North Melbourne's been around for 80 years and they're not an interesting club either.
Nobody liked Frankenstein when he was first created.
No, nobody did. And then they chased him out of the village with... No one liked him at all, actually. No one liked him at all.
And they set fire to him in a castle.
Yeah, that's just unfair. That's just persecution.
No, they just wanted to win a premiership like the rest of us.
He did a hammy in the car. You know, that's why he took refuge in the castle.
Did he?
Yeah. What are your final thoughts about this game? Because we know nothing, because we're recording so early, we don't know what the changes are going to be.
No.
There's a really good chance that Colin could do like 2-3 hamstrings in the next 2-3 days.
Look, you probably almost expect it.
The one sort of good thing is this Toby Green fiasco. At least it's a bit distracting for them.
Well, that's it.
Not that we've experienced the suspension distracting the club going into a big game.
No, but really at this point in the season, it really doesn't matter because nothing stops us from losing for prelims. We are the masters of winning prelims.
Tip?
Look, and it's gonna
I agree.
It's gonna give me 28 ulcers, but I think we'll win.
How much?
68 points.
Really?
No, I think we'll win by about 4 or 5 goals. So.
Really? Yeah, I'll say 38 points. I don't know.
And if we don't, to hell with you.
Yeah. Anyway, that's it for us. From us, not for us. From us.
That's it from us. It's just a case of it's up to you now, Collingwood.
And subscribe,
one more win, and then we'll talk further.
Yeah. And we'll see you next week.
Yeah, do that subscribey, likey thing that no one ever really does. No, I don't know what to make of that. I think that's read injured.
Later.